Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys. So yeah, a little bit about my journey here. As Sean mentioned, I moved back to Nebraska from Maryland in 2007 and joined the GPAC. I was really fortunate. I was on a small college crew out in Maryland where there were 7 of us on that original crew, and 6 of us were first or second year officials. And I had a referee at the time who was basically about ready to retire, and the office said, "Hey, you've got 6 young bucks that are going to be really good, and we need you to break them in." And I tell people that was really cool to be a part of that. So of those 6 original, 4 of us are still in the Division I, and the other 2 have worked the Super Bowl the last 2 years. So it's one of those things where I've been very fortunate to have and be able to communicate with those guys. We still get together all the time. I try to go back to the Tom Beard. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of that clinic on the East Coast. All of those guys that I grew up with in my officiating now put that on. So I get to go back and just be a clinician to help out with that. But great group of guys. So came back, worked in the GPAC for several years as a line of scrimmage, then worked a couple years as an umpire in the GPAC, went and worked in the heart of America for 3 years back as a line of scrimmage. Had an opportunity to move back to the GPAC to become a referee. Was a referee in the GPAC for 3 or 4 before I finally got the call to Division I in 27. See, my son is born in 2010, so 2012 I think is when I got the call to Division I. And I've worked in the Missouri Valley, MAC, and Big Ten the last 9 years. So worked all the positions on the field except for field judge in a division or in a college football game. So have an experience on all the positions. So please feel free to ask mechanically on all those things, just like any of the others. Feel fortunate to have that kind of breadth of knowledge, and it's honestly helped me as a referee to understand what the expectations are when you go to these conferences and things, what the position coaches are teaching. I kind of have the knowledge. I'm not as up to it on all of the positions as much, but general familiarity has been an opportunity for me throughout my career. So without further ado, what I want to start with here first is, as officials, we're told all the time, right? Be perfect and then get better. I mean, that's the expectation of coaches. That's a hard one to live up to, right? I want that first call right, and it doesn't matter that you got it right. You got to be better than that. Get told that all the time, right? And then, the quote from Vince Lombardi: "Perfection is not attainable, but if we chase perfection, we can catch excellence." Absolutely. That's why you're all here, right? One of the great quote too, it's about being the very best you can be. Nothing else matters as long as you're working and striving to be your best. Always compete. It's that simple. Find the way to do your best, compete in everything you do. My presentation is generally about communication throughout the week, and but let's be clear. I'm just one person. Sean's just one person. He's just one person. Dwight's just one person. We have nuggets that you're all, but what works for me, what works for Keith, what works for Dwight may not necessarily work for you, right? So take all of this stuff with a grain of salt and say, hey, I like that. Don't like that necessarily, but I can work with it. I mean, I learn from doing this stuff as well. If I mentioned it when I got introduced earlier, if I can't teach it, then I got to figure it out because I don't understand it. At my core, I enjoy the giving back, the education, the teaching. So again, I learned something from a pregame opportunity from Mike Cannon. I'm sure you know that name. He's worked like 4 national championships before he came off the field. What was really cool, and I'll get to it here in a second on the pregame, is we have very similar pregames, but just a little bit different and just enough where I could make it my own. And I took one of the things that was core to him and tweaked it, and it actually works better for me. So again, I'm learning all the time too. So communication, and this is where to effectively communicate, we must realize that we are all different in the way we perceive the world and use its understanding as a guide. So again, as you're learning your crews, you're on these crews, understand that people learn very differently. And as a crew chief, we go through this all the time, and what works for a crew in 2024 may not work for my crew in 2025 or 2022. You've got to be adaptable to what works for the crew itself as far as communication, throughout the week. As an example, so would you trust this group? So this is from Keith. What year was this? 2 years ago? 3 years ago? I guess we had 7, so it's probably 3. Is that right? So it's so one of the things that we do as a crew is the weekend before Halloween. It is not a suggestion; it is a requirement on my crew that the Friday night meal we go in costume. So we were, for this particular one, we were in Grand Forks, North Dakota, for a UND game. And we went to this place called the Blue Moose Lodge. And, yeah. So, obviously, when you walk into an establishment in Grand Forks, North Dakota, dressed like that, the place went quiet. And they were like, who are these guys? And then we just, had our time. But you know what? We had probably our greatest enjoyment and communication that night. So off-season crew communication. So for me, it starts when you get your crew assignment, right? And I just got mine. It's interesting for me. I'm changing positions, so I don't have all of the responsibilities of trying to do all that. I'm a crew guy this year, which is really cool for me. I get to play a different role again in relation to this crew. So what I do when I first found out which crew I'm on, I made phone calls to all 9 other on my crew. Hey, introduce myself. Half of them I'd worked with. They were all crewmates of mine over the years. But reaching out, hey, what makes you tick? How's the family? All of those things. Just building that rapport, that communication within the crew itself. One of the other things we do too is we've created a text thread for the 10 of us, and we cut each other up pretty good in a good way, right? One of them is over in Europe right now, and giving him a hard time about some of the places he's visiting over there, and we're envious. So again, just building that rapport and to communicate, with each other. So when you get ready for the season, you've already had some of that background stuff taken care of. Here's one of the things we do too: start working through the rules. Hold each other accountable. So every day, I've got a crewmate who sends out a rules question. And the expectation from us is don't cheat, just answer it. And we'll see how close we are if we're all in agreement. No, and if not, let's go find the rule reference. But it forces us to have that conversation on the field, because we're not going to have the rule book on the field, right? Do we agree with somebody's responsibility to answer first? And we agree, no, we don't. But it's forcing us to have that communication even in June or May of, hey, this just happened. How are we going to enforce it? How are we going to talk about it? So again, that's that communication we're talking about, that just opportunities to get better without a lot of effort. All right. I thought about this one, and I wanted to take it just a little bit different than maybe Sean thought. As somebody that's moving from not being a crew chief anymore to a just official, kind of just giving some perspective of, what a referee might do, but more what a crew can do as far as preseason and in-season. And I'll say this, my approach to preseason, off-season is certainly different than Dwight's, different than Sean as a crew chief. I know there's probably some other white hats in here. Again, take the nuggets, take all this stuff and work with it however. So for me, in the past, what I would do is, hey, let's get together, do the rules thing. We have our clinic in July. We get together for dinner there. And then what I try to do is I'll have a mechanics meeting the last 2 weeks before the season starts, where we will go literally through the mechanics book. Okay, where do we stand on kickoffs? And that seems remedial, but you know what? It's the focus, it's the switch after spending all the time on the rules. Okay, now we got to go out and work this game. How are we going to handle this? Let's have that communication. Okay, if I'm standing here, what am I looking at on that kickoff? Umpire, back judge, how are they coming into the numbers or the hash to work that kickoff play? Short wings on the pylons, how are we moving up the field? Having all that conversation, so when we get that first week, we don't have to worry about it. Now again, that works for us. Yep. And again, you do yours before the clinic, I do mine kind of after, because for us,
but either way,
yeah, it's
if we wait until our first game to do that, we're already behind.
Yep, that's right. And for me, that's setting the expectation. And now and then I say, I'm not coming back to this stuff. The expectation is we know it, right?
Yeah.
Now, if a game comes up where we've consistently missed a block or something, right? Okay, now there's a problem. It's going to show up on film. I'm going to use that film opportunity to go over mechanically why we did that. So going to that along the lines for my pregame then on a week is I'll have a bunch of plays that I've tagged reviewing film, and I'll put it up there, say, hey, did we see this block? If the answer is yes, fine, I don't care, because the grades are going to take care of whether the graders like it or didn't like it, if we called it or didn't call it, right? If the answer in the room is, I didn't see it, all right, let's go watch this again. Why not? Who should have been looking there? That's a mechanical breakdown. That's where we then use the mechanics to figure out why we have the miss. Pre-game then for me, so this is how I go into something I got from Mike Cannon. So he required of his crew that the CFO weekly quiz, the 10 quiz, right? His expectation was that everybody had done it and we're going to go over the answers. That was the first thing they ever did. I thought about that. I was like, okay, I get that. I'm going to tweak it a little bit. And here was the reason why I tweaked it and why benefit for me is I tell my guys, we're going to do that certainly, but I'm going to be pissed off if you look at it beforehand. And here's the reason why is we are not going to have the opportunity to review it when we're on the field. Okay. So I'm going to go randomly pick. So then nobody knows who's going to go first every time. It'll be, all right, Keith, question 1, here it is. What are we going to do? And I then expect from all my crew to say, all right, I'm thinking through this. That's an umpire flag. What can I be thinking about? What can I be considering? What that flag is, it's probably a hold, a chop, something like that. So if I hear something differently, or we're going to enforce it differently, I can say, hey, wait a minute, that's not right. I'm going to have a voice, and my expectation is we are all going down together. So if you have any question at all, you better be coming in and saying, hey, why are we doing this? We may agree to disagree, and as a referee, we'll make that final decision whether or not to. But if you have any question at all from my crew, you better be coming in saying, doesn't feel right. Let's have that conversation real quick. It is not, for me, it's not a dictatorship. I tell my crew all the time, we are not a crew of 8 and 2, meaning the 8 on the field and the 2 upstairs. We are not a crew of 10 individuals. We are a crew of 10. We go down together. And yes, I am the face. Dwight's the face. Sean's the face. But you know what? It's all of you that make us look good. So, hey, I will take all of this. There's also an expectation on my crew as well of, hey, if I come over to you and say, pick that flag up, we'll have the conversation why we're picking it up in the locker room, but we're picking the flag up. There is an expectation that I trust you to take me off that flag whenever, and we're going to do it. Now, again, we may disagree in the locker room, but we're not going to have that conversation on the field. You decided that you wanted to pick it up. You own it. You trust what you saw. We're going with it. So again, something to think about, consider as well from a communication standpoint. Crew member specific communication. So this is an interesting one for me. Again, personal philosophy is I try to sandwich, if I've got to, hey, I've had an official have just a really bad game for whatever reason, right? Foul threshold was off, spots are off, whatever. I will try to get to that crew member before the next pregame and say, hey, pull your head out of your butt. Why? You're a better official than that. I'm going to do that outside of the group. Now, if there's something in that he missed for different reasons that we can all learn from a group and communicate from a group. All right, Joe, you know you shouldn't have done that, but we're going to use this as an illustration in pregame. I'm going to let them know that. Hey, we're going to do this. but I'm also going to sandwich that criticism with 4 things that he did really well with throughout the season, right? Or throughout the game. And then I'm also personally going to say, hey, I screwed this up too. I'm not infallible either. Show that opportunity that you're not as, you're not up here and everybody else is down here. Again, we're a group of 10. So to the extent that I can show that I miss stuff too, I've felt over the years that it's kind of helped my crew buy in a little quicker as well. So again, stop acting like an idiot, right? I told people that. Keith, you've heard that once or twice, haven't you? All right, and then kind of my last slide here is, the mentorships and mentoring. And this is where I take pride in it and I enjoy this component. Generally, I say find 3 people, okay? One that's above the level you're at, one that's at the level you're at, and one that's below the level you're at, right? So for me, I've got a couple in here that are at the same level I am, mentors. One of my really good friends as well, Kevin Marr, is kind of my mentor above. And I've got, several that I help out that are below. And again, it's a way for you to look at it from all perspectives. And you're now becoming a mentor as well. Find somebody that you can have a rapport, you can have a beer with, and not just talk football. And, that may take some time to find the right person. Find someone who's willing to do it and can dedicate the time necessary. Try to find somebody that's overly authoritative. Hey, like I said, I don't know all the rules. I don't know all the stuff. This is a really important one too. I've done it a couple different times. You can outgrow your mentor, your mentee, and that's okay. I've found others over, but some of those that I've outgrown, we still talk from the standpoint of, hey, how's the family? How's your kids doing? They become really good friends, not just a mentor-mentee relationship. They shouldn't always have the answers, and the ones that are really good say, I don't know that answer. Let me find it out for you, or let's look for it together. Hey, I don't know that rule. Let's go find a rule book, right? And this is a good one too. Look for someone that you respect and don't necessarily rely on their age. Look for expertise and ask around for somebody. That's kind of, and I did this for a different presentation too. So some of you have heard me talk about, this is my son. Let's see, this would have been 3 years ago. This kid here now is going to be a freshman, and he is my size. So I asked him, what's really cool is, he goes, what are you doing today? And I said, well, I'm coming to this. He goes, I'm not ready yet, but maybe next year I want to come to that. So that's really cool for me to have a kid that's 14, going to be 15, and wants to be in your seat next year. So find that next group. I know we all know that we're training the next group. They're going to take our place. And as an older official, we have to get comfortable with knowing that it's our job to get you ready to take our job. It's reality, right? And so find that next group that is going to take your job and become comfortable that they're going to take it at some point. Old man, father time always wins. And certainly I'm on the backside of my career. I get that. I feel like I've got a few holes yet. Yeah, I made the turn at the clubhouse, but I've got a few holes left. But my time is limited. It's going to be you guys sitting here that's going to take my job someday, and I'm okay with that. But that also makes me work twice as hard right now because you're nipping at my heels. So context too, and then I want to show the video as well. We all strive to get to the NFL. We all strive to get into Power 5 football, all of that. Context for and perspective as well, because I think this is important too, that this last hiring season for the COC, which is the Big Ten, the MAC, the Missouri Valley are the big three conferences. We have on staff, Monty, what do we say, about 150, roughly 200? That'd be 100. So it's 300, roughly. Okay. We had 350 applicants. Okay, this last hiring cycle. New applicants, that's right. 350 new applicants. We hired 11. Okay, so it is becoming harder and harder to get into the room that we're in. And we get that, right? It's becoming even harder to stay in that room because all of you are nipping at our heels and we got to work even harder. So keep working hard, all of you, to force us to keep working hard, because if we're not, we're out and it's going to be your turn. Keep making all of us better by working hard. Questions? I'm going to take a step further. I was going to mention this earlier, and thank you for the reminder. So for me, and I think for as the mentor, not the mentee, and I certainly played both hats. If you go back to above, same, and below, right? It is my expectation, if I'm going to have a mentor relationship, that the mentee is driving that 100%. Okay, I am a busy person. We're all busy people as mentors. Just day job, all family, all that stuff. But you know what? You pick up the phone and call me, I will 100% answer it when I can. But you have to show the initiative and be the driver of that. Because again, we're happy to do it, but you've got to drive it. And I'm the same way when I'm the mentee and I'm going to call my mentor, hey, Kevin, can we talk about this stuff? And his expectation is, yeah, I'm driving that. So again, we will all do it all the time. But for me, the expectation is, as the mentee, the being mentoring, you have to drive those conversations. It doesn't matter the level, unfortunately, and it's reality. I've had a crewmate the last couple of years that absolutely does not pull his own weight, and it frustrates me every single day. And the disappointing thing for me is, and I'll use this as a illustrative example only, and then kind of come back to this, right? So 2 years ago, I worked with 40 different officials throughout the season. Okay, so we worked 10 games. Again, I worked with 40 different unique officials throughout that season. We went the entire season without receiving an incorrect call in our grades. Did we take a couple no calls? Certainly. But we took a 0 for incorrect calls. That's a pretty good accomplishment, right? Awesome. My frustration, going back to this, very first game the next season, that one that we're talking about had 3 incorrect calls. So it's one of those that after that, we sat down, had conversations of, you've got to step up. You need to do these things. There's an expectation that you do this, and you should have been ready, and you're not. My disappointment is that continued throughout, and for whatever reason, I couldn't get to him. And in my entire career with him, I couldn't relate to him in a way that I could fix some of those poor habits and stuff. So there's no right or wrong answer there. Unfortunately, I've been able to get to others and just have those conversations. Hey, I need you to do this. We're going to work on this together. I've tried being the hard guy. I've tried soft. Tried other people on the crew. All of those things are opportunities that should work, and for whatever reason, it didn't in this particular case. But there's a lot of, and again, if there's something in particular you can go over scenarios, I'm happy to do it. But yeah, you can either undress them, again, to the extent you do it in the right way. You can take the soft approach if they're going to melt down and not have the mental toughness to have a hard conversation. Have somebody else on the crew kind of be that sounding board at times. There's various different ways to do it. And it's funny. Now I'm going to use an analogy that happened to me in my work life yesterday, really in communication. So I have a direct report that got dressed down appropriately so, and in a appropriate tone yesterday for failure to follow directions on a project. And what happened, what brought this to a head is something that happened 2.5 months ago on a miscommunication between this person, my direct report, and somebody else within the organization. And I'll use the analogy and illustration of, at that time, that was taking a pebble out of your pocket, throw it in the ocean, right? Splash, and now the ripples, okay? So back then, just a little splash. 2.5 months later, we had this tsunami wave crashing into California, and things blew up. And as I'm doing the root cause analysis on the communication, it was failure to communicate appropriately 2.5 months ago that led to that. So again, a lot of the stuff that I use on the football field, I take and use within my day-to-day job. So think about it from that standpoint too. Whatever vocations you do day-to-day, how are some of those skills capable of being related to what you do on a football field? Because, as a referee, I look at it, you've got a head coach who's basically a CEO of a company, and at our level with a $1 billion budget at times, and you've got to figure out how to get them to do the right things. So again, corporate America and football kind of hand in hand, basically similar skill sets. So take that again as a way of communicating with people too. Any other questions? Great question, because I'm going through that right now, right? I think you probably teed that one up on purpose. Appreciate that. And I'm in a unique situation too, and a context on this. And so my crew chief this next year was my original crew chief in Division I when I came up. And so there was certainly a bit of a rapport originally with him, but what I did right away after I found out which crew I was on is I intentionally reached out to everybody on the crew and probably spent 45 minutes to an hour with each one of them, getting to know them. Again, a few of them I'd worked with over the years, so those were easier, but half of them I'd never met. Met in clinics and stuff, but never worked with them. So getting to know, who's their wife, who's their spouse, who's their kids, what do they like to do? What are we building that rapport of, hey, I'm coming in, I'm the new guy. How do I fit into what you're already doing? Now, the thing with this crew as well is, except for me, they've all been together for 3 years. So I'm truly the only changing cog on that. So they have their set things, and I'm going to have to learn those. So some of that stuff is when we go to those mechanics meetings and things, okay, how do you guys do things? Because it may be different than what I've done. Fine. I'm the one that has to adapt, right? Certainly I've got things that I want to do, but I have to now work within what has worked well for them and try to make it fit. Certainly they're going to give me a little latitude, but it's figuring out how best to fit into what they need from me. Be that subservient, at least early on, to say, hey, okay, I'm new. What's your expectation of the position that you need from me? And just be open about it.